Often in mathematics you have a number, but you just don't know what that number is. And this is where algebra comes in. You just use a letter instead of a number. For example, you can use the letter X. Okay? Doesn't have to be X. It could be A or P. Any letter. Okay? And it's just a number. It could be 1,000, 1,000,000, 1, 2, minus 50, minus 100. In algebra, these letters we use, they're just numbers. Always remember that. And like numbers, we can multiply them. You could do 2 times 3, for example. I'm sure you can do 2 times 3, which is 6. It's exactly the same with algebra. You can do 2 times x, for example. And you'd write that as just 2x. You don't write the multiply symbol if you can avoid it, which is nice. 2x is much nicer than 2 times x. You could also multiply these different letters together. I'm going to call these letters variables. Okay, these are variables. You can multiply 2 variables together. For example, you could do p times a. And you'd write that as just PA. We don't need to write the multiply symbol if we don't need to. And P times A is exactly the same as A times P, which is just AP. So PA and AP are the same. The order of multiplication doesn't matter, in the same way that 3 times 2 is also 6. Okay? So PA and AP is the same thing. Likewise, XY is the same as YX. Okay? We can also add, just like numbers. If you had 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's 6, right? You can do it with variables too. X plus X plus X. What's that going to be? Well, it's actually 3x. Okay? P plus P plus P plus P. That's 4p. Okay? Now what if we wanted to add 3x, say, plus a different variable, plus 4p? Well, you can't. It's the short answer. With different variables, you can't add the terms. Okay? That is as simple as it gets. If that's your final answer, or you're asked to simplify that, you can't. 3x plus 4p is as simple as it gets. However, if we were asked to multiply 3x and 4p, so 3x times 4p, you can. The way to do this, you start with the numbers and multiply them together. 3 times 4 is 12. And then you do x times p. You multiply the variables together. And as we've seen, x times p is just xp. So you would just write it as 12 times x times p. Okay? So, when you've got different types of variables, you can't add them, but you can multiply them. Okay? Let's do another example. Let's do 2y times 7a. Okay? Same thing as before. Multiply the numbers together. 2 times 7 is 14. And multiply the letters together. Y times A is YA. Or AY. It doesn't matter. You can write it either way round. Okay? Right. Always remember throughout this, if it ever becomes confusing, these variables, these letters, they're just numbers, okay? So because they're numbers, we can also have negative numbers and negative variables, such as minus x, okay? And you can subtract. So if you've got something like 4x minus x, then you've got 4 of something minus 1 of something. So that's just 3 of the something, so it's just 3x. Okay? And similarly, you can't subtract different variables. You can't do 4x minus 2a. That is as simple as it gets. Just leave it like that. Okay? You can also divide. Now, if you have to do x divided by a, for example, this is grown-up maths now, and in a similar way that you don't really need to write the multiply symbol anymore, you don't really need to write the divide symbol anymore. You would write that like this, as x divided by a. Okay? So if you're doing algebra, it's time to get out of the habit of using the divide symbol. That's x divided by a. And x could be, I don't know, let's say x is 12. Remember, it can be anything. Let's say a is 3. Then x divided by a would become 12 divided by 3, which is of course 4.